Hi, everyone. This is Michele Graglia.
This is Marianne Hogan.
Hi, I'm Adrian McDonald.
I'm Katie Asmith.
Hi, this is Anthony Gasals.
Hi, my name is Meg Morgan.
Hey, it's Jordan Trove.
This is John Ray.
This is Ryan Van Duzer, and you are listening to the Gotta Run Racing Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another Gotta Run podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Jody.
And I'm Norm. And if you're new to this podcast, welcome. What's happening in the world of ultra running?
Well, today has been an epic day for world records. We have a new world record by Camille Herron. She has set the new women's record for 6 days of running. 901.7 kilometers, 560.3 miles.
Oh, is that all?
All right. In 6 days. She broke the record by about only 18 kilometers.
And when was that record set?
That record was set in 1990.
Oh, that's good. I thought it'd be much older than that.
Yeah, 1990.
Wow.
This was all part of the Lululemon Run Further campaign, which saw several female runners taking on the challenge. And I think there were a few other records broken as well. And personal bests, of course. And you can follow it all on Instagram or Threads because it's been documented. But congratulations to Camille. That is unbelievable. I wonder how many hallucinations she had. I wonder how many pizzas she ate. And the list goes on.
Well, we just ask her directly. She answers our texts.
Yeah.
Anyways, what else is happening in the ultra world community that we're going to be talking to today on the podcast?
Yes, very exciting. We're staying close to home this episode. We are chatting with the race directors of the Sulphur Springs Trail Race, which is a volunteer-led ultra. Takes place on a 20K loop in the Dundas Valley Conservation Area. It has about 500 meters of elevation gain per 20K loop and offers trail runners of all skills something to enjoy, with a mixture of groomed trail to moderately challenging single track, rolling hills, steep climbs, and descents. The distances offered at this event include the 100-mile, 100K, 50-mile, 50K, 20K, 10K, and 100-mile relay.
So everything.
Everything, basically. All nestled in the beautiful setting of the Niagara Escarpment, this trail system has been the site of the Burlington Runners Club race for more than 30 years, making it the oldest running ultramarathon in Canada. They've had some familiar names compete in this race over the years, including one of Canada's best marathoners, Reid Coolsat, as well as Victoria Brown, who holds Sulphur's 100-mile record for women at 19 hours 52 minutes. She holds many other records, including Canada's first female to run 100 miles under 15 hours.
Mm-hmm.
This year, the race is seeking to become Ontario's first Western States qualifier, which is a huge accomplishment. So we reached out to the trio of race directors from Straw Dog Racing, which includes Steve Connor, Mauro Campanelli, and Russell Thacker, who we'll be chatting with today. And I'm really looking forward to this one.
Without further ado, here is Straw Dog Racing coming up. Welcome, Straw Dog Racing crew, to the podcast. Mauro, Steve, and Russell, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Before we chat Sulphur Springs, let's get into each of your background about running specifically. So, Mauro, when or how did you start running?
Right at 50 years old. So it was about 12 years ago, almost to this day. Laying on the couch, I said, I'm 49 and a half. I've got to do something. Before 12 years ago, I did not run 1 kilometer.
Wow.
Not one single kilometer. So it got me off the couch. Age did get me off the couch. And from there, 5, 10, half, full marathons, and joined a couple of running clubs. My wife was the one that said, you should join a running club. And I said, nah, I don't think I would like that. And here I am kind of right in the middle of as many running clubs as I can find, triathlon club, biking clubs, and now race directing. So I guess she knew better than I did. That's for sure.
I think people that come to it later in life actually tend to stick to it a little bit more. That's just my perception. Yeah.
There's less time to stick to it. That's for sure.
The clock's ticking.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
And Russell, same question.
I'm trying to think. It's got to be creeping up sort of 15, almost 18 years ago. My sister who inspired me to run, my older sister, she ran the Boston Marathon, and I kind of was really, interested in that. Came from being a grossly overweight 2-pack a day smoker, traded one addiction for another kind of thing. Anyway, so she started the Boston Marathon and I thought I'm going to do it. So I ran my first half, which was the chilly half, I think, way back a long time ago. And it was a horrible experience. I was completely undertrained. I was cramping. And then she said, well, you need to get with a coach. And she brought Steve Connor's name up to me. So I have been a Orange Army faithful of the Connors Run Club and did a serious amount of road runs and everything else. And then I sort of realized that I was never going to be a fast runner. I've never broken 4 hours in a road marathon. And then I got talked into doing my first ultra, the Niagara 50K. Ran that with Mauro, actually. Had an interesting afternoon. And I've never looked back. I've been an ultra runner since then and trail running. And then I found trail, and trail's really become my home. I love everything there is about trail running. I've been off again Sulphur. I've run Sulphur numerous times. And and then kind of got a phone call one day saying, hey, BRC's looking for, somebody to race direct. And I said, well, I'm not willing to do it on my own. So next phone call was to Mauro, and Mauro says, well, I'm not doing it on my own. And then, and then sort of Steve and Mauro and I all came together.
And Steve, same question to you. How did you start running and how many years ago was this?
Yeah, thanks. My running background goes a little further back. I'm not as old as those guys, but I have a longer breadth of running experience. I ran track when I was in high school, did triathlons when I was in high school, but I swam varsity. I was a varsity swimmer at Western. And really, once I finished school, sports chiropractor, I was like, how can I include some of the passions that I have with my professional career? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to start coaching running because there was a gap where people weren't training people for around the Bay. That's really how it all started. But I've been coaching marathoners, ultra marathoners, half marathoners for 20 years now, since 2003. I still run. I still enjoy running. I've run marathons all over the world. Still do triathlons, not as much as I used to. But this has become a natural extension for all three of us. We have some synergies, we have some strengths, and we have some deficits in what we can bring to the table. So the three of us have kind of come together, not by accident. I think, again, Russell sort of alluded to it. We were approached by BRC, and my first call was to Russell, and then we both called Mauro, and it just sort of, it's sort of like, we think we have something that we can put together as a group and make this whole race direction thing even better, because we're coming at it from so many different levels of types of experience as runners, but we're all really in it for the safety of the runners, the experience of the runners, and the preservation of the beautiful trail system that we enjoy so much. So that was kind of my early start.
BRC, just for our listeners, is the Burlington Runners Club, which I assume has been around for more than 30 years.
Yeah, they have. I don't know more. Do you know how long they've been around?
No, I don't. Sorry, I don't.
No, it's okay. It's definitely longer than 30 though, right?
They started the race, so they've had it ever since day one. So your math would be accurate.
Well, we also like to check out some of the races you have done in the past. And Mauro, you took on the Yamacraw 50K in Kentucky. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, I actually did both the 20K one year and then the 50K after that. And that was a lot of fun. That you train on hills here in Ontario, and you prepare yourself for a trail race down in Kentucky and Tennessee, and you're doing 42K on nothing but hill climbing, and I'm ready. I'm good to go. And then you hit down there, you hit Tennessee or Kentucky, and it's like, man, you're not even close. You're doing like 3 to 5 miles just straight uphill, and we have nothing like that here. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. I went down with a group of people, and it was a destination trip, and it was great fun. I mean, the people we went with were amazing. The trip itself, no one was injured, no one got injured. Everyone stayed healthy the entire training. It was beautiful. I mean, and the scenery for that race is second to none. It's really nice down there.
That's right. It takes place in May, right? So I guess the course is still changing.
That's right. Yep, exactly.
Spring.
Yeah.
Spring. Yeah. Well, coming.
Yeah, no, it's spring. Yeah, yep.
And speaking of challenging, Russell, I think the one that stuck out for us when we were looking at yours was the Barkley Fall Classic. Talk about that.
I'm going down there again this year for attempt number. I think this is going to be 5 or 6. I can't remember. I've done the marathon finish. But you think in terms of running ultra, and you think 50K is sort of the lower end of the ultra scale. But Barkley and Mauro's done Barkley as well, but I will attest to what he's saying. You think you're trained, and then you get out there, and obviously the attraction for me was the movie, and then I was followed Gary through all of his attempts, and I am mildly obsessed with Laz, so I love being down there. There's something about that race that it will challenge you like nothing else you've ever tried running. You're on Rat Jaw, you're on Testicle Spectacle, you get to go through the prison. So you get all the sideshow freak aspects of the big race without having to find the pages in the book. But as Mauro alluded to, Chimney Top is a mountain that's in the race, and it is a sustained climb with 3 or 4 false summits. And you're climbing and almost on hands and feet. This year was horrible. It was rained. So it was just sliding. Normally you're trying to avoid the briars, and people were diving into the sawbriars to grab onto them for purchase, because if not, you're going to go on a butt slide for about a mile. But if you're really just a little bit crazy and really willing to put yourself out there, that's a race that you've got to get into. You got to run it.
I wish you hadn't said that.
The fact that you go every year tells me you're a lot crazy.
I feel somewhat immortalized too, because if you go to their Facebook page, there's a picture of a guy who's bent over and he's going like this, and that's actually me somewhere in the middle of Radja. So.
I love it.
And now, Steve, you have an extensive running resume. We couldn't pick one to ask you. So what is your favorite experience of all your marathon careers or even Ironman?
I will point out that I don't have the ultra experience that these guys have. And that's kind of one of the assets that they bring. And, my strengths are different than that, but I have done marathons all over the world. My favorite by far has been London. And that one for me was, I think the best part of it was how busy it was. I've never been in a race that busy. And I've done New York, I've done Chicago, I've done Tokyo, some big races, Berlin. But the London race, like you were hitting elbows right through 30, 40K. Like it was just unbelievable. And so I had a smile on my face the whole way. And it's the number one charity fundraiser in the UK. And so you have a lot of charity sections where if someone's wearing a white shirt, they may be supporting a certain charity. And if you're near that person, the crowds go crazy when they see that person. And so it was just deafening and an overall amazing experience. Now, what I will suggest to any of your listeners, if you do the London Marathon, I went and made the mistake of going down the finishing chute that was in the center. You had the right and the left and the center. I thought, whatever, just go down the center. I missed on one side Prince Harry, and then the other side Princess Kate handing out medals. Now, apparently, they keep them on the sides because safety, they can get them out of there quickly. They won't put them in the middle. So if you're about to cross the finish line, you still have some wits about you in London, pick right or left, and maybe a chance you meet some royalty and they'll put the medal on you right there. But you won't see that in the middle running chute.
Oh my gosh.
But couldn't you go back on course?
What's that?
Do a U-turn.
Couldn't you go back on course, go to the left or right finish? Just keep going back on course.
If you had the legs, maybe you could.
I will interject the one thing that Steve was talking about with the crowd of London, which I think was one of the most incredible things about London, was there is a start line picture or Steve, or is that on London Bridge or whatever, but there is a sea of humanity, and Steve is wearing his Connor's orange jacket, and you can pick him out of all of these humans. You could see Steve in this. I think it's one of the best running pictures I've ever seen.
Actually, yeah, Russell, that came from Steve Colleen. He found that on their Twitter feed, and he's like, hey, that's our coach. But that was about 24 kilometers into the race. So it was like a puzzle, like a Where's Waldo puzzle. And yeah, it was pretty amazing to still be that close and congested at that point. I'm still one of my favorite experiences.
I can't believe you're rubbing elbows at that K mark. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because we did New York and it was congested, but it kind of spread it out near the end there.
Yeah. And we did New York in 2005 when it was only 36,000 and we thought it was crazy. Now it's over, I think, close to 50. I can't imagine.
Well, I don't know if it was waves back then, but in London, when I did it just a few years back, it was 3 different starting points, 20,000 people at each starting point. And at 3K, you're now 40,000. You all start at the same time. And at 5K, it's now 60,000 in the course. So you didn't have waves where you spread out at all. Now, maybe the last 5 or 10 kilometers, you started to see some of that spread, but that first 30, you saw no spread.
That's like doing when I did the Disney Marathon and the Dopey. I was in wave F, and I left, and 45 minutes later, I was still hearing fireworks going off because they were still letting people go, on the course. So that's a lot of people.
Well, let's get into Sulphur Springs Trail Race. Who would like to tell us a little bit of the history? Because this is Canada's oldest ultra marathon. So who can give us a little bit of the background of the race?
I think that's a Mauro question.
Jody, Sulphur Springs goes back 32 years now. It started 32 years ago with the Burlington Run Club, and they decided to create the race after having their regular runs through Dundas Valley. So their regular weekly runs prior to, and not just the year prior, but for years prior to the initial race, was through Dundas Valley, and that was their training area. It was just natural that for the Burlington Run Club to create this race right where they were training. The course itself has taken 2, probably 3, or maybe even 4 evolutions in terms of the course itself and the distances. Distances over the course of the 32 years have ranged from the 10K that we have, with a couple of different other variations that we don't have today. And that's the couple that I'm talking about are the 25K. There was a 25K up to a few years ago, maybe a bit more than a few years ago. And 1 year and 1 year only, Sulphur Springs hosted a 200-mile race. And that was very impressive. And there is a little bit of a demand, a little bit of a request to take a look at that again.
Yeah, we're gonna ask you about that a little bit later. So we'll save our question for then.
I'll get you a promo code for you guys. But registrations number 1 and 2. There you are.
All right.
Careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah.
There you are. Yeah.
Let me get 100 miles under my belt first.
So, Mauro, how long has Straw Dog been directing Sulphur Spring?
This is our 3rd year now. We came in at 2022. And if you recall 2022, back, it was almost March when the COVID restrictions were somewhat lifted. Okay. Back in March, we started organizing the race back in December of 2021. When we were approached, we were down to 5 months to get the race up and running when we were engaged in discussions with Burlington Run Club. So we had 5 months to go and put it together. And during those 5 months, as I mentioned, when we first started, the restrictions weren't yet lifted at that point in time. But come March, that's when they started being lifted. But at any given time, they were touch and go as well. Mm-hmm. So there's always the possibility that there was going to be a lockdown again from March to race day. Registration was coming back. This was a sold out race for the prior 5 years prior to COVID. Sulphur Spring had sold out every year for 5 years. Then COVID came along, and that sellout being anywhere from 1,000 to 1,100 runners. COVID came along and ended. And in 2022, we managed a registration of 985 runners, which was very, very impressive for the first year back. And like I said, we were only in the game for 5 months, and COVID only been lifted for a few months. And a lot of people were still hesitating over starting the start lineup. Okay, the start line. What's going to happen with the race if the province kind of locks you down again? And there was a lot of questions of that nature that we had to entertain and kind of be ready for. We had to ensure that people understood if there was going to be a lockdown, this was the refund policy 3 months out. This was the refund policy 2 months out. We were trying to be fair with everybody, as well as the vendors and suppliers were trying to be fair with us as well. So we just wanted to give back to the runners and make sure that we were fair with everybody. And, at a certain point where, you're under like 6 weeks or maybe even closer to 4 weeks, where you've got to make that commitment to everybody. And if that COVID lockdown is going to happen within 4 or 5 weeks of race day, it's sad to say, but we're committing to our vendors and our suppliers, and the refund's not going to happen, kind of. Mm-hmm. So it was a challenge on year one for sure. So this was 2022 race year was our first year. Since then, we've entered into contract with Burnside Run Club, and we're in for another 3 years after that. So this is our third year of doing the race now.
Very nice. Well, Steve, I think you have the most fun job description of this trio, which is looking after the runner experience. I'm curious to know what you've brought to the race in the last 3 years that might be different from what was done previously, because we know from social media now, we get to see what all the races offer. And runner experience is probably really up there in terms of what people look for when they're choosing an ultra in particular, right?
You're right. Absolutely. This is something that, as a sports chiropractor, I kind of bring that element to the table, in that I know my best advocate for my services in that field is making someone better. If I make them better, they're more likely to refer a friend or someone else that they see in distress, or someone else they see with that injury. They're going to send them back to us. So in trying to build on the legacy that Sulphur Springs brought for years from BRC, and let's point out how amazing that club was in the early days. It was 100% volunteer run race. Okay. And so one of the challenges coming out of COVID that the volunteerism found was that people who have been doing these things for 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, they said, I think it's time for someone else to step up and carry that mantle and start to volunteer. We came in without the assets that we had before, but with a lot of knowledge of people around us, and they were all runners. And all those runners came with ideas and said, how can we make this better? So we started to say, okay, well, if we're going to build on the legacy that Sulphur Springs brings, what can we do? We had to start to look at safety. We had to look at how we're going to make sure that people are motivated. We made some simple changes that seemed simple at the time, but we were really pioneering some testing things where we said, okay, the 100 milers often finish alone on Sunday. Our 100 miler would start on Saturday at 6 a.m. They finish at noon. That's their 30-hour cutoff. You have people finishing anywhere from 8 in the morning to noon on the Sunday. Well, most people who have done 50K have gone home. 50 milers have gone home. Even the 100K runners have gone home. So it's us, the 3 race directors, and some family members, maybe some support crew. So we shifted our 10K and 20K over to Sunday. So the 100 milers, they're getting chatted up through all the 10K and 20K runners, saying as they're coming up the hill and they're about to start their last lap, you're going to pass Jim, you're going to pass Susan, you're going to pass Raquel on the way back. Make sure you give them encouraging words. And when they come back and they're finishing the 100 mile, now there's a whole shoot to go through now, because the 20K runners that just finished their 20K, they're elated, they're having a donut, whatever, but they're in awe that loop that they just did and found so tough. People started Saturday morning and they did 8 of them. So as far as runner experience, it enhances the 20K runners because they can see how amazing these other people are that we all think are crazy in some ways, but they're real people. They have these goals and dreams and they're achieving those. And we also see the 100 milers saying like, wow, I was running up that last hill. I thought I was going to have to walk it, but everybody kept coming by me saying like, let's go. You got this. You're doing great. And so they come up and they got big smiles on their faces. Right. So that was one change we introduced. The second thing we introduced, the Lantern Rouge Award, which is celebrates the last finisher within the time allotment for the ultra distances. So the 50K, 50 mile, 100K, and 100 mile races each get the last finisher. It doesn't have to be male or female, but whoever non-binary, whoever finishes last in those within the time limits gets a special award, tying them from at the back of the group to the front of the group, saying, we understand you are just as committed as a person who left a few hours ago with the winner's prize. You need to be celebrated just as much. Again, building this out from a runner's experience, we've brought in sponsors who are committed to helping our runners have a great day, like Arc'teryx Toronto. They've been fabulous. Again, they've assigned us people from within their division of trail running who really want to grow their brand and brand recognition within the field. So we are actually working with them very closely to make sure that their needs are being met. We're also building out an experience from the runners saying, okay, well, if we want to be involved with the runners, we need you to help participate this way. And so we've got several sponsors that build out that way. And I think, I could list 10 more ways, but those are just the initial ways that came on. And we've got such great feedback, social media activations. We've got people who are posting it with this, the highlight of their summer. We're in May. We think we were doing a lot of good things, but we also have new ideas we're going to implement this year. I'm sure we're going to talk about some Western States stuff soon, but it's continuing to grow and build towards something even better as far as our runners experience that keeps us up at night saying like, why don't we try this? One thing I'll point out, one of the great facts about having 3 race directors, if 2 people think it's a good idea, it's a go. If one person thinks it's a good idea, it's a no. Right. So we do have that instant veto power where we're like, no, waste of time, or that's not going to be handled well or whatever. It's kind of nice.
You're right. I think we should get a third race director.
There you go. I recommend it.
I will point out too, that at the beginning, the first year, Mauro pointed out we had sort of a 5-month window. We were engaged, I think, in December, in the late November, early December, as to our interest about running the race. And quite honestly, other than our 3 individual experiences, none of us had really done any official race direction. And I was extremely proud, just like how much we learned. And again, the value of 3 was we immediately were able to pull from people we knew in the industry and people we knew that had been to other things and got ideas and said, how does this work? But we did it all on the fly. I will honestly tell you, operationally, people come and say, hey, this is such a great event. I've had such a tremendous day. You guys did such a wonderful job. And I'm running around thinking this is an utter show because this went wrong, that went wrong. But then again, as a participant, you don't know what we had organized or planned, and our ability to adapt at the real time to maintain. And I think that's also one of the big things we go towards that runner experience is we really wanted to create a festival. That's also been the big trend in the running events. You look at some of the larger events in the States that they come off more like, hey, this is not only is it just, you don't just show up, you do your run and you go home. It's like, hey, stay, enjoy the environment, draw from the energy of everything that's happening and go home with your heart full, right? Not just your feet sore.
And you did say, Russell, that you are the operationals guy, which probably means no sleep for a month before the race.
Well, definitely for 74 hours. And last year I wanted to take a medal because I did complete 100K in the parking lot. So I actually covered 100 kilometers in walking back and forth on the Martin Road parking lot.
Oh my God.
And I arrived Friday at 12 something and I left it Sunday at 3 in the afternoon. And I think we had 4 hours sleep. So it is, but it's funny. Mauro sent an article recently to our group chat, and it was about the sort of race director why. And I really took that article to heart because it talked about just being on the finish line. There's lots of arguments the 3 of us have and disagreements. And there's days where I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this. This isn't worth it. And then you stand on the finish line and I get to hand somebody their first belt buckle. And I'm crying along with them because I've watched them go from, I've talked to them at 2 or 3 in the morning and they're like, I'm done. I can't do this. There's nothing left in me. I got nothing to give. And you kind of coach them through that and you get them to stand up and you get them to put their feet on the trail and walk down, and you see them come in at the end and that's everything to me, right? Like I live for handing out those belt buckles to the ultra runners, particularly the 100 milers, because it's near and dear to my heart. But yeah, it's a tough event. It's a tough weekend. We're always pushing ourselves because we're looking for that next level experience. That we have an acronym we use for that, the next level
You can say it. You can say it.
Oh, next level shit. It's basically, it's always, Steve's always saying it's got to be next level shit. Like, what are we going to do? And, and one of the other things too, is there's also other things that like sustainability. That was something else we really wanted to, we wanted a festival, but we wanted sustainability. So like last year we had that green finish line idea of and just to get rid of the orange cones and go with the cedars that get donated back to the forest. And I mean, just those little things that people go, well, why? That's a really great idea. And why, so it's just trying to be that little bit different than a race. We want ours to just have that little extra, that next level shit.
And not to leave out Mauro, you're the numbers, volunteer, and social media guy. So to me, that says you are definitely working year round. Not that the other two aren't, but based on that, you're definitely working on this year round.
Yeah, but you're right. We all three of us do work on it all year long. But the very first thing that we do come the Monday or Tuesday after the race, we wrap up we wrap up the numbers from the year and make sure that everyone's paid and everything's closed up and we're done. But to say that we're not working on 2025 already, and we are, I mean, no two ways about it. I mean, here we are probably about 2.5 months prior to the 2024 race, but we're always talking about next year because we may be a little bit late for this year in some of our ideas, some of our approaches to sponsors, as well as our current sponsors. We're talking at them today. How big, how much larger can we get? How much happier can we make our finish line? We're always talking that. In saying that, there's everything from making sure that the race budget is adequate for the run club who we report to, making sure that's correct and making sure it's accurate and making sure that we abide by it all year long. A budget is a budget, and we've got to kind of make sure that we stay within the lines. And that's kind of what I do. On the volunteer side of things, we changed some things around this year. We added from the operations side, Russell and Steve, we all agreed that we needed an additional aid station this year. So we added in a fourth aid station. And in saying that, from a volunteer perspective, that adds in a whole new line of volunteers required. So we have at Sulphur Springs, we have about 70 different volunteer activities. And of those 70 volunteer activities, we have 160 required volunteers throughout race weekend. So that's 160 people, less if there's people willing to do a couple of shifts, but that's 160 6-hour shifts is what it is. And this year is going to be that much more simply because we need a lot more experienced volunteers this year. We've got to make sure that we're properly taking care of our 100K, 100 milers that are going to be out there, greatly increased numbers. So, and we've got to make sure that we're taking care of those guys out on the course, as well as when they get back to a start finish line. So that's going to be a whole different level of volunteers that we're going to need, as well as a whole new level of vendors and suppliers. So we're taking care of that. And I've got some good volunteer captains that are looking out for their specific areas, taking care of social media, taking care of the trail marking, taking care of the aid stations, start finish line area. So we've got some real good volunteer captains that are helping us out along the way as well. And very proud to say that they're on part of our team.
That's awesome. That's over 1,000 volunteer hours, if I'm doing the math right. Yeah. To count everybody up.
To give you some perspective, we went from 8,600 milers last year, Mauro, right, to 250 100 milers this year.
Oh, wow. 250 have registered?
Yeah, so.
Hey, guys. If you like what you're hearing so far, then check this out. Calling all trail runners to come on out to Mansfield, Ontario this May. The Lost Treasure Trail Race features both a 5 and 10K on the beautiful trails of the Mansfield Outdoor Center. As the story goes, the American outlaw Jesse James buried a barrel full of gold coins stolen from a train on his relative's property somewhere in the hills of Mulmer. You'll earn your very own coin medal when you cross the finish line. Registration is now open. For more info, go to GottaRunRacing.com. Now back to Jody and Norm.
There's almost that many. And I think there's almost that many 100K.
Yeah. So the number that Russell's right. The numbers for if you add the numbers for the 100K runners plus the 100-mile runners, last year we only had about 150. And 150 for our race is quite a large number. Okay, sure. For 100Ks plus 100 miles. This year, those two distances are seeing 500 runners this year.
Wow, congrats to you guys.
That's amazing.
Okay. So 500 runners, and that's just in the 100K and 100 mile. We've got to make sure that we take care of those guys. We got to make sure that they're successful, and we got to make sure that they're getting belt buckles and medals when they cross that finish line. And we hope that, that we have the highest percentage of finishers that we've seen ever before.
Yeah, we're getting closer to that question. But shamefully, neither one of us have run Sulphur Springs. We're gonna rectify that in the next 2 years for sure. But we did come the year that you had the 200 miler because we were cheering on our Team Running Free athletes when we used to own our store. We had some athletes that were participating in the race.
And I was able to, I think I ran 3 loops. That's 60K of the course. But I tell you, not easy, because that final hill coming into the final finish was pissing me off. I can't imagine doing a 200 miler. But what happened to the 200 miler? That was only just 1 year, right?
Yeah, it was only the one. I think the race director, or I think it was Tim that year, and his wife, there was just a sort of, hey, why don't we try a 200 miler? And 200 milers are becoming more, I wouldn't say popular, but they are becoming more prevalent in the ultra scene. I think as people kind of like, ultra running was one thing, and now you've got everybody's just pushing the envelope more and more, right? So they tried, and I remember being there. I remember showing up on the Friday and just like seeing, because that was the 2019, right? So that was the raining year. So like some of these guys had a macerated feet. Kudos to them for finishing that race, but it is a deceptive course, to your point. I mean, people think that, it's a nice trail, but you grind that out a couple of loops and going up the Sisters, and there's some very gradual net downs that if you're not careful and you don't kind of stay within yourself, you're going to trash yourself to the point you're just going to be in trouble real soon.
You have a section called the Sisters?
Yeah. So the lollipop, so there's a bunch of different, I think it's the Headwaters Trail that comes across Martin Road. Looks like a lollipop on the map. And there's a section that's affectionately known as the Three Sisters. So it's kind of, again, 3 hills that continue to climb. So they also have a lot of other euphemisms that have been thrown out.
We have the exact same thing in Hockley.
It's called the Three Sisters.
Sometimes they're sisters, sometimes they're something else.
Something else. Yeah.
Well, actually, ours is the Three Sisters and the Mother.
You found the mother, didn't you?
But in that 200 miler, didn't someone come from Germany to run that one? Did he actually come from Germany specific to run that race in 2017?
That's my understanding. I think he was the guy that won too, right?
51 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it made big news. Yeah. It made it City TV News or something like that. It was a big deal at the time. I remember seeing it on the news going, wow, that's incredible.
Well, so give you some perspective. Harvey Lewis, his first 100 miler he ever did, Sulphur Springs.
No way.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
wow.
Again, when you talk about a 2025 idea, having somebody of Harvey's caliber, I mean, right now he's probably moments away from running Barkley, but because that's happening in likely in the next few weeks, that'll drop. But yeah, Sulphur's had some pretty notable people, and I think we have somebody coming from Australia this year. Do we not, Mauro?
Yeah. So we've got New Zealand, China. There's 4 or 5 people from China coming, believe it or not. And whether they coincide with family trips or not, it's regardless. The word is out there. We've got a few from Europe. Word is out there, and through the States. I try to talk to these people a little bit through Messenger and ask them, where did you, how did you find us, and where did you find us? And they will tell me that, a lot of it's through social media, and they're searching around, and they'll just search Google and we'll come up on their searches. So it's pretty impressive that we're worldwide now. Seriously, we really are. And, we put our name out there, and we're putting our feet to the fire. So we're holding the candle as well.
Well, obviously the big story is you're going after the Western States qualifier this year. So how long has that been on your radar? Is that from day one was your mission, guys? Who wants to take that one?
Steve owns this one.
Okay.
It was his brainchild. It really was his brainchild.
Yeah, that was something that was started maybe by me, but it was a group decision to sort of say, okay, like, are we going to put ourselves out there? What we decided to do was first, I reached out to Tropical John Medinger from Western States and said, look, we would love to be considered, but how can we be considered for as a Western States qualifying race? And he laid it out there and said, look, Western States is a great race. We're always looking for geographical representation. So I said, we had a good discussion, realized there was no Ontario races. There are races in Canada that you can qualify for Western States, but there are no races in Ontario where you can. And so we said, okay, why don't we decide, okay, maybe I decided before these guys did, but I decided we're going to go after this. And so what we had to do next was, just because we wanted it, we had to sort of take a pulse for the trail community. Do they want it? Because part of the qualification process to prove to Western States and Tropical John Medinger that we are serious and that we should be considered as a qualifying race was to demonstrate that we have at least 100 finishers in the 100 miler under 30 hours. And because of our elevation gain for the 100K, our 100K race also qualifies as long as we're under 18 hours. So if we have either 100 in the 18 hours, 100K finishers in under 18 hours, or 100 mile finishers in under 30 hours, then anybody who qualified within those parameters would be given a ballot for the 2025 Western States race. That's an agreement we came upon, and we sort of said, okay, let's put it out there. We kind of did it blindly with a leap of faith, but we also knew we didn't have to get this Western States qualifying. This was a goal of ours, but we really wanted to know, does the trail running community in this area want that as well? And the answering it has been a resounding yes. As you can see, we can talk about coming out of COVID in 2022 and having 100 runners in the 100K and 100 mile total. And then the next year, 2023, we had 150, which is fantastic growth, right? But to go from there to 500 was not something that we thought was going to be as quickly received as it was. We had lots of people chatting, lots of people supporting, saying, let's do this. People on social media pushing each other. And we've had to adapt because of the demand was so much higher than we even anticipated initially. But we're very pleased to see that interest was there from the trail running community that matched our interest in being that club. I will say this. It really surprised me, and it probably shouldn't have, because the trail running community is a very different community than road running community. Okay, a lot of my road running experience is different. We got a lot of support from other trail race directors who said, yes, we want your race to be that race. Okay, we want that for Ontario. We want all of our runners to have that opportunity. We've had people from Happy Trails Racing. They moved their foxtail up a little bit in the training season so that they become more of a feeder for our race.
They also dropped the 100 mile too, right? They dropped the hell out of that race so that people wouldn't be trashed for going to Sulphur.
Exactly. So we've seen acceptance and excitement from us that's matched by the runners, that's matched by the trail racing community in our area, that's matched by BRC, who wants this to happen as well. And now the onus is switched back to us to make sure that everybody has the potential to cross that finish line. So we're doing lots of things now to try to make sure that that's the scenario. We need selfishly that 100 finisher to get the status, but we would like all 250 people to finish, right? Not for any reason other than they deserve the opportunity to finish. So we'll pray for good weather, but everything that's under our control, we will do our best to make sure that they have everything at their fingertips. Every support element we have. We're introducing a night trail run this season. Again, building out the runner's experience, saying, okay, you don't know how to run trails at night? We're going to bring guides in, and we're going to show you how to do that on Friday, April 25th. We have Phoenix Headlamps is on board as a sponsor now, so we're going to make sure that people have demo headlamps to try the night trail running. We're going to do some of those things so that they can have a better understanding of how the trail operates represents itself in the dark, because we just want to have more chance at a higher success rate. We have Scratch Labs Hydration, our nutrition company. They're coming on board. They've been on board with us all along, and they've been fabulous. People have become accustomed with a great product being served on course. We're not just throwing anything. We want to give them the best possible products to make sure that they're finishing. But they're coming on board. They have Reed Burrows and their nutritionists, in-house nutritionists. They're going to do is possibly a series of videos. We're trying to coordinate all that, a series of videos, of instructional videos of how to prepare for sulfur, what products you might want to use, and what to expect, and what all kinds of things that can help improve our success rate. So we're really hoping that we've done everything we can that's in our control to get that Western States qualifying status. And we look forward to being at that finish line when we've gained it. And we're really excited about it. I hope you guys will be there for it. But
yeah, we want to talk about that actually. But first, from our standpoint as runners, I can see how the ultra community has completely embraced your goal, because it took Norm 7 years to get to Western
traveling,
and he did all of those out of country.
Right.
So the time, the money, the lonely weekends of him disappearing and going to run, and then we still had to go to this race, whether he was injured or not, to get his Western ballot.
Yeah.
So I can totally see why our communities embrace it, and I'm thrilled that they have. And secondly, one of our questions was, when we were looking at your race roster and we saw that it was sold out, and we're thinking, why would they cap it? Well, we understand now. If you have 250 people registered, surely to goodness, the success rate is going to be there. So you didn't really cap it. You got enough people to tackle this that it should be sufficient. So scratch that question.
Yeah. Well, no, I can speak to that a little bit. And then we started thinking, okay, if we look back historically at our finishing rates, we can see that typically with good weather, it'd be north of 50% for sure. Sometimes 300 miles in the 60%, 65% on a really great day with good conditions. The 100K might even be up in the 70, 75%. You know, we can get some really good days, some events that pushes it up further. But so we said, okay, we need 200 registered, because you might get 10 to 20% that don't even start because of injuries or other things, or life gets in the way. So then all of a sudden now you're down to 160, 180. Then you're like, okay, well, if we get 60%, like what are we dealing with here? So we set that target of 200. And now coming off of, like we said, there was 150 between the 70 and the 100K and the 80 and the 100 miler from 2023. We thought, wow, where are we going to find another 120 100 milers that want to do this? And then we had to, okay, well, wait a second. Can we handle more? Because there's so much demand. So we've had to expand the field. Only early on, we realized, wow, there's just so much demand. But then we got to a point where we said, okay, it's not just about volume. It's about safety, finishing rate, runner experience. And, we've got to make sure we have enough food and porta potties, and we've got more paramedics this year than any time before that we hope are just bored out of their mind. But yeah, we have to think of all those things. And that's kind of why we've had to put a cap on it. But originally when we thought 200, we were like, whoa, is this crazy or what? But now we know it's possible. And because people like you, we have friends like you, Norm, who've done that and traveled all around. And we said, they would love this, but do we have enough that would love it? And you can see that we do.
Yeah.
I got to ask Norm, how did you do?
I got my golden hour t-shirt.
Oh, did you? So I crewed this year for a friend of ours who it took him 7 years. I was his primary pacer and crew. So I've been to Indiana Trail and Oil Creek, and I did all those qualifiers with him. He did Zion and a few others. Yeah. And what a rush Western States is. We were there last summer. I got to sit and Courtney chatted with her dad and her mom. But we went back for golden hour. Unfortunately, my runner missed a time cutoff at the high school.
Oh no!
Just had some GI issues, and that was unfortunate. But we went for golden hour, and what a rush!
Yeah.
What a rush. So congratulations. I know that course. I got, I did run on that course. I got at least my feet on the course, but good for you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I was prepared to die that day.
Yeah.
Because it took me so long. I was prepared to die.
Yeah.
But going forward, after you get the qualification for Western, Do you have to maintain those numbers every year to keep the qualification? Or do they automatically, you're in?
Every year it's a voting process where they determine who can be a qualifying race. The unique aspect we have is that we are Ontario. We would, in that case, be Ontario's, at the moment, only Western States qualifying race. With a population of 14, almost 15 million people, we think we're pretty well seated to sort of at least carry that torch for a while. I think they would expect 100 to 120 finishers every year to maintain that status. But they could come along and say, okay, the 100K races don't qualify you anymore because there's so much demand. Mm-hmm. There's been talk about that in the background, sort of on social media feeds and stuff. That's not from Western States directly, but they could come along and make those sort of in-house changes just to adapt. They could come along and say, we don't have a contract with them. It's every year they get voted upon. But when we have good turnout and good runner experience, that's what they measure their willingness to be involved with you again on.
I think once your name's on that website, though, you will see your participation rise from outside of Ontario as well, because obviously the people in Eastern Canada and the Northern United States going on a road trip to come up and get their ballot. That I think you're going to really see that grow in the next couple of years for sure, because there really isn't a whole lot on this side of the continent when you think about it. So that's awesome. We're excited to see it unfold.
Yeah, we are too.
As are we.
We got people coming in worldwide, and we've got to ensure that we entertain these people that are coming in, their support crew, as well as the runners, and showing them a good race, like Russell said, a festival. And I think last year's event where, on the Sunday, just in terms of 10K and 20K runners, you got 500 people there. You got 500 people cheering on a 100K or 100 runner coming in at like 10, 11, 12 o'clock on Sunday morning. You got 500 people cheering them on, or our race announcer says, hang on, guys, don't leave. Within about 20 minutes, we'll have a 100 miler coming up the hill, and we need you to cheer them on. You got 200, 300, 400 people cheering them on. That's pretty wild. That's pretty cool. So we're going to maintain that this year, and we plan to even grow that environment, that festival-like scenario on Sunday even more.
The one thing I'd like to add to that, though, is and this is actually even a mandate from BRC as much as it is a straw dog thing, is we also we want to create this sort of large scale event and this worldwide event, but it's still very important to us to not lose that kind of local feeling, right? Like we're Ontario, it's certainly a goal of all of ours is not to kind of become this sort of, well, we're just too big to be, to remember where we came from and what we were originally about, because I think that would be a disservice to the race and to the legacy that we were given, right? I mean, we were given the legacy of a race that's already ran 29, 30 years. And I don't want to be the ones that like, oh, they just turned it into this money-making. Look at all the backlash UTMB is getting in Western Canada for just buying out and just becoming a corporate machine, mm-hmm. right? So that to me is just really, really, really important, right? Like I want to make sure that never happens.
And did you not feel at Western that it had that feel, yet it's such a huge, ginormous race, yet it didn't feel that way for some reason?
Yeah, there was a little bit in the village. I remember standing the yellow runner.
Sally McRae.
I'm standing next to her, and she was just sitting on a cooler, and we talked for about 40 minutes. And I'm like, people kept coming up, and at the point, I didn't follow her on Instagram. I didn't really know who she was, but so down to earth, mm-hmm. approachable. Nobody had this air of, don't talk to me. Like, how many times? I mean, as much as I don't dispute any of the, but we don't walk up to Kipchoge and just sort of say, hey, do you mind? Can I have a beer with you? But honestly, I swear you could grab Courtney or any of these guys and just say, hey, do you want to sit down and shoot the shit for 10 minutes? And they'd be more than happy to pull up a log with you.
Well, trust me, we've been shocked by some of the names that have said yes to our podcast. So case in point. And this is the only sport where you can line up at the start line with the pros. You can't name another sport where you can do that.
Yeah, I want to go play hockey with Toronto Maple Leafs. Do you think they allow me to go play hockey with them?
Speaking of pros, Steve, a couple of notables for our race.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
You worth mentioning a couple of notables that we've got coming.
Sure, yeah. So Amanda Nelson, who's the 24-hour Canadian record holder.
Nice.
She will be here making her, believe it or not, her 100-mile debut because she's run more than 100 miles, but she's never raced a true 100-mile race. So she's going to join us. And Krista Duchesne.
Yep.
Krista Duchesne will be there. She's an Olympic marathoner. I've known Krista for years and years, and we've supported her as Canadians and as runners for years as she worked toward her Rio Olympic bid. And she's run a 50K trail race, but she's never run anything more than that. So now she's dabbling in the 100K for the first time. So she's going to be there representing all of us and all of our hopes that we can continue doing this for a long time. Reed Burrows, who we mentioned before, Reed Burrows will be there. He'll be running our 50K race. So we have a good turnout of notable people. We have Reed Coolsat's going to be there. I think he's either going to be coaching or he's going to be running our 20K because he's coming off an injury. So I'll talk to Reed to sort of see where he's going to be. But we have lots of great runners, lots of talented people already in Ontario. But you may see some names, like you said, Norm, you may see some names that we're just not familiar with that to really come in and show us where all the talent is elsewhere outside of Ontario. And we'll be excited to see that happen too.
In the past 3 years, what interesting stories or funny stories have taken place at Sulphur Springs that you can come to mind? I know, Mauro, you're laughing. There's something in your mind right now.
I think, Mauro, you're on mute, but you need to tell him about Nick.
No, I'll let Russell. Russell took the phone call. I'll let Russell take that.
Yeah, Nick.
From Montreal.
Yeah,
go ahead, Russell.
Yeah, so I'm standing at the registration desk and 100 miler started 2 hours ago. And this kid wanders up and says, "Hey, I'm here to run the 100-mile. I know it's left. Can I still start?" And I was like, "Sure." I said, "Why not?" So he gave me his name. I gave him his bib. And I said, "I got to ask." I said, "It started at 6 a.m. It's 10 o'clock almost, right?" And he said, "Well, my car got broken into my girlfriend's place in the city." So he's from Montreal. He had nothing but literally a pair of shoes and the shorts he was wearing. And he said, "Can I still run?" And I said, you have 30 hours to finish the course. So as long as you can finish by 12 noon tomorrow." I said, "Have you ever run a 100-miler before?" And he goes, "No, this is my first one." So I'm like, okay. So he's got no gear, no nothing. Went over to the MC mic. I introduced him to the crowd. This is, again, a testament to why I've switched from road to trail and why I love the trail community as I do. "Hey, this is Nick. Got his car broken into. He's got no gear." Within 5 minutes, we had him a vest. We had him a couple of bottles. Somebody we gave him a couple of the volunteer shirts to change into. I gave him a spare headlamp I had in my kit in my truck. And he finished.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah. He went out there with such gratitude. Like the whole day, you know what? That was the funny thing too, is he said to me afterwards, he said, "I had two choices. I could have sat at home and been miserable and said I got screwed and, my life sucks or whatever else." And he said, "I chose to make the best of the situation and look at the outcome."
Yeah.
Yesterday, I don't know if you guys are aware, but last year, we had the youngest Canadian ultra marathoner in Matt Monroe, 19 years old. He was almost our Lantern Rouge winner, I think by 20 minutes. But same thing, he and his dad was so nervous. He just hung on my 6 the entire weekend, asking me questions. When should he be back? Is he going to be okay? And and I'm, I talked, I felt like I was taking care of his dad more than I was taking care of the runner. But yeah, it's those little real miracle things that happen that when you see him come around the corner and you think he's going to finish, and that's incredible.
Well, Mauro, you'll remember Matt showed up to Fiddle 50. He was broken.
No, he did.
He was broken.
That was one week later. He was trying to do a 50K, I guess. I'm not too sure what it was.
Yeah, I don't think he made it very far though, if I remember.
No, he cramped up pretty good.
Well, I think again, if you look at most ultra marathoners, they don't really start until they're mid 40s, right? Like the average. I'm saying, I didn't start until I'm 55, almost 55. So I didn't start till I was in my early 40s before I started taking it seriously. I think sometimes it's just, you kind of get that, you have to have that mental maturity to know what you're putting yourself into. But I mean, 2019, I know people that they moved the aid station into that field and it was pouring with rain. People were losing their shoes, getting their shoes completely sucked. Yeah. Always something fun that happens.
Your company is called Straw Dog Racing. Are you guys going to be directing any other races coming up in the future?
No, our focus is on Sulphur Springs this year. No two ways about it. I mean, we don't want to lose that focus. Straw Dog Racing, are we capable of doing a lot more? I think we're capable of a lot more. Right now, we all three of us work full time. So this is something that we do, after hours, before or after work, or on the weekends. So it takes up a fair amount of work. Is it enough for us right now? It really is. So until we're ready to take on more, I think we're very content with Sulphur Springs and ensuring that the race experience for our runners at Sulphur Springs is nothing but the best.
But according to your website, you are for hire. Should someone want to hire you too?
But strictly trail. I have no interest in doing a road race for me personally. There's the logistics of permitting. Because I'm operations, I do all the permits and everything. So police and those things are just such a hard thing to do. And I really feel for people who manage road racing in terms of the logistical challenges that they face. To Mauro's point, this is another full-time job. We promised at the end of last year, it's like, great, we had a great race. We high-fived, we hugged each other. We were sleep deprived. We said, okay, let's take a day off and then regroup. And we dotted the I's and crossed the T's and closed the books on 2023. And we thought, okay, well, we'll see you guys in a couple of months. And 2 days later, we were sitting down having coffee going, I got this idea. I got this idea and I got this idea. We haven't stopped. No. And we haven't had one day off. It's not that I don't love it. But I think to Mauro's point, I definitely see Straw Dog doing other things. But to the point I made earlier about our mission statement being that we want to do a premium event, it's trying to find something that's not just another of the same that's not to say we wouldn't consider resurrecting a ghost from the past and maybe putting a new flavor on it. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely, it's like I said, there's always ideas. We're always bashing around things. So don't count us out. But hey, if you're looking for some race directors for your local race, no harm giving us a call. See if we can work in our calendar.
All right. Well, we wish you nothing but the best of luck. And
we will be there.
So we like to finish our podcast with some rapid fire questions. So we're going to shorten it just because we want 3 answers from each of you. So we're going to start with a little bit of Canadiana. Butter tarts, with or without raisins? Steve.
No raisins.
Mauro.
No raisins, all sugar, all by. Oh yeah, no, don't mess it up.
Russell.
You had me a butter tart. It doesn't matter what the butter tart is, I'll eat it. Put a pecan in there, a raisin, I'll have it.
All right.
As long as it comes from Black Forest Bakery in Oakville, that's my go-to butter tart spot.
All right. Mauro, would you rather be a professional writer, painter, or musician?
Painter, all the way.
Russell?
I would love to be a writer.
Steve?
Well, I'm not just going to be different. I'm going to say musician because my wife has a degree in piano performance and I have a grand piano right there she won't let me touch.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
If I was a musician, she'd probably let me touch it.
I love it. Name a TV show you're embarrassed to say you watch, Russell.
RuPaul's Drag Race.
Really?
Oh,
we can stop right there. We got enough to go on for another hour now.
I am the father of 2 daughters.
Love it. All right, Mauro, what's yours, Mauro?
90 Day Fiance. Seriously, I'm not kidding you.
Wow.
You almost spit out your coffee. There you are.
I think I would side with RuPaul over 90 Day. Oh my gosh. All right, Steve, make it a good one.
All right. Well, you know what? I got to outdo Russell a little bit there. And then I have 4 daughters. So I don't watch a lot of television because I don't get an opportunity with them always taking it over. But Sister Wives has been on in the background.
Oh my gosh. I I love this. This conversation, I think, is going to go on after we've cut the Zoom here.
As long as you've got butter tarts.
There you go. All right, Norm.
Pick a superpower that you each like to have.
Russell.
Spider-Man. So my favorite. Yeah, I want to be able to wall crawl and web zip. And
Steve?
I just like to be a lot taller.
Taller?
Like 9'6".
Oh, you want to be a giant. Okay.
Yeah, just walk around, not that much stronger, just taller.
Okay. And Mauro?
I thought of my answer, but then as the other guys answered, I thought mine was really creepy. I was going to say invisible, but that's kind of creepy, I think.
Yeah, that's a common one.
Turn your camera off.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
And all the best this year. We will be there for sure.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And we'll stay in touch, and we'll see you in a couple months.
Yeah.
Jody, thank you. Norm, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
I just have one quick question before you go. Like with the butter tart question, was that because you wanted our order?
We know what to bring you.
we don't eat all weekend, so I'm just wondering. Okay,
I'm making a note right now. Bribe them with butter tarts, no raisins. We're good.
What's going to happen is Mauro's going to send you an independent email and ask you to bring him a coffee, but just him. So he can walk around, because he did this to me 2 years ago where I kept turning around and he had a fresh Tim Hortons coffee, and I kept looking at them going, how the fuck do you have a coffee? And
every hour on the hour.
And he goes, I get people to bring them to me. And I'm like, you couldn't say two?
That would be divorce in our house. All right, guys, take care.
Well, good luck to you guys with your goals too, because this is pretty amazing. We want to be part of this and part of your success too. So whatever we can do to work together, we're excited about it too.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All
bye.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Well, that was our first time chatting with more than one person at the same time, and I think it went pretty well, don't you?
I think it went great. We learned so much about a race right in our own backyard.
We sure did. And thanks to the guys for helping it go so smoothly. If you want to be part of the Race to Western States, you can still sign up for the 10K and 20K and cheer on those runners going for the 100K and 100 mile.
Yeah, stick around. Cheer them on. The very last runner coming through.
That would be on the Sunday, right?
Sunday.
Yeah.
Around noon.
That's right. Golden hour. It's the best party to be at.
That's right.
Take it from us.
And they have plenty of runners in the 100K, which is sold out, but they have what, 250 they said?
250 in both.
In both, 100 mile as well. So
incredible.
They're gonna get this for Western States qualifying. It's exciting that Western States is finally coming to Ontario. You can get your ticket right here at Sulphur Spring.
You got it. Well, it is exciting because I think Mauro mentioned we have a population of 15 million in this province. And the fact that we don't have a qualifier yet is pretty crazy.
There's 15 million in our province?
Yes. 15 million. And at least 1% of those run.
Wow. I had no idea.
At least 1%.
No, let's go Sulphur Springs to make it happen.
Let's go Sulphur Springs. Cheering them on.
And I just want to say to all those 100Kers and 100-milers that will be at Sulphur Springs, take it from me. I know running that distance, it's tough. You got to dig deep. I remember my first 100-miler was Leadville 2014. And the words that Ken Klauber, the director of Leadville at the time, made all the runners repeat to themselves, I commit, I will not quit. I commit, I will not quit. Over and over again. Keep saying that to yourself and cross that finish line. We're counting on you guys to make Sulphur Springs a qualifier for Western States here in Ontario. Everyone, cross that finish line and make it happen. And we will be there. And if you need us to pace you for a loop or two, come and find us and say, hey, Norm, can you run with me for a loop? Sure, let's go. Whatever it takes to make you guys finish. And everyone who's racing at Sulphur Springs listening to this podcast, hey, come and say hi. We'd love to meet you. Just look for Jody and I. We'll be decked out in GottaRun Racing.
And we should mention at the time of this recording, the 10K and 20K is still available. So get on over to Race Roster and sign up, people. And before you go, we'd really appreciate it if you'd leave us a rating or a review wherever you listen to your podcast. It just takes a minute, but it means a lot to us.
All right, until next time.
Cheers.
Bye.